Welcome to Dark Side of History channel, where the untold stories of the past come to life. So don't forget to subscribe and uncover the mysteries with us.
Serra Pelada Gold Mine Brazilian Rush. Thousands of Brazilian workers dug manually with simple tools while searching for gold at the massive Serra Pelada mine in 1986. This incredible scene showed desperate men climbing muddy hillsides carrying heavy loads in one of the world's most dangerous mining operations. The gold rush represented how the dream of striking it rich drove people to work in extremely hazardous conditions for the chance of finding precious metal. Hanoi Air Raid Underground Shelters. North Vietnamese residents waited in chest-high flooded sidewalk shelters during bombing alerts in Hanoi in 1967. These improvised underground refuges protected civilians from American air attacks, but often filled with water during monsoon seasons. The flooded shelters showed how ordinary people adapted to survive aerial bombardment during the Vietnam War. Japanese Bicycle Soldiers Asian Campaign. Japanese military troops advanced on bicycles through Palembang streets during their Asian operations in Sumatra in 1942. These fast-moving soldiers used bicycles to quickly cover long distances and surprise enemy forces during the Pacific War. The bicycle troops represented Japan's innovative military tactics that used simple transportation to achieve rapid conquest across Southeast Asia. Jocelyn Kouari Lebanese Civil War Guard. 20-year-old Maronite Christian Jocelyn Kouari was photographed guarding a Beirut building during the Lebanese Civil War in May 1976. This young woman took up arms to protect her community during the violent conflict that tore Lebanon apart. The female guard represented how civil wars forced ordinary citizens to become soldiers to defend their families and neighborhoods. Easy Company Hitler's Eagle's Nest Liberation. The 101st Airborne Division paratroopers from Easy Company reached Hitler's Bavarian Alps retreat site known as the Eagle's Nest in 1945. These elite American soldiers had fought through Europe to capture the Nazi leader's mountain hideaway after Germany surrendered. The Eagle's Nest liberation represented the complete defeat of Nazi Germany and the end of World War II in Europe. Berlin Zoo Animal Care during siege. City residents cared for zoo animals as Soviet troops approached the German capital during the final Battle of Berlin in 1945. These brave civilians risked their lives to feed and protect exotic animals while their city was being destroyed around them. The animal care showed how people maintained their humanity and compassion even during the most desperate circumstances of war. B-17 Bomber Crew English Base Operations. A U.S. Army Air Force's Boeing B-17 bomber crew was photographed at Polbrook Air Base in England in 1942. These young airmen flew dangerous missions over Nazi-occupied Europe in heavy bombers that faced intense anti-aircraft fire and fighter attacks. The bomber crew represented the courage of American aircrew who fought in the skies over Europe during World War II. General Patton North African Campaign. American Commander General George Patton directed official strategic operations and unit coordination during the North African Campaign in 1943. This aggressive general led American forces against German and Italian troops in the desert warfare that helped turn the tide of World War II. Patton's leadership represented the bold military strategy that helped Allied forces achieve victory in North Africa. Normandy D-Day Operational Support. Men ate K-rations during a meal break on June 9, 1944, while providing operational support during the Normandy invasion of France. These soldiers had just participated in the largest amphibious invasion in history and were establishing the beachhead that would liberate Europe. The meal break represented the brief moments of rest that soldiers found during the intense fighting of D-Day operations. Normandy Beach Medical Personnel. American nurses walked on the beach while providing essential medical care in Normandy operational areas on July 4, 1944. These brave medical workers treated wounded soldiers near the front lines during the dangerous early weeks of the European invasion. The beach nurses represented the dedication of medical personnel who risked their lives to save wounded soldiers during combat operations. Henry Ford Nazi Eagle Cross Award. Ford Motor Company founder Henry Ford received the German Eagle Cross Award from Nazi Germany in 1938. This controversial honor was given to Ford for his anti-Semitic writings and business cooperation with Nazi Germany before World War II began. The Nazi decoration represented the troubling connections between some American businessmen and fascist regimes during the 1930s. St. Louis urban smog environmental crisis. Severe air pollution from coal burning created dangerous urban fog conditions in St. Louis in 1939. This environmental disaster showed how industrial pollution could make city air so thick that people could barely see across the street. The smog crisis represented the environmental costs of industrial development before clean air regulations were established. Great Depression Social Security Number Tattoo. An unemployed worker showed his Social Security number tattooed on his body during the economic hardship of the Great Depression in 1939. This desperate man permanently marked himself with his government identification number, hoping it would help him find work. The tattooed number represented the desperation of people who would do anything to survive during America's worst economic crisis. Hitler's nephew, American departure. Bridget Hitler said goodbye to William Patrick Hitler at New York's Hotel Astor as Hitler's nephew left for America before World War II began. This family member of the Nazi leader chose to abandon Germany and move to the United States before World War II began. The family departure represented how even Hitler's own relatives rejected his ideology and fled to democratic countries. Same-gender relationship historical documentation. A rare photograph documented a same-gender relationship during the period when such expressions of affection were not publicly recorded or accepted due to social prejudice and legal restrictions of the era. This intimate moment captured a relationship that had to remain hidden due to social prejudice and legal dangers of the era. The companionship photo represented the courage of people who maintained loving relationships despite social disapproval and legal dangers. Three Flags, Moscow, political transition. City, Russian Republic, and Soviet Union banners were raised together in Moscow during the political changes that would end communist rule. This symbolic moment showed the complex transition from Soviet control to Russian independence during the collapse of the communist system. The three flags represented the peaceful political transformation that changed the course of world history. Woodstock Festival massive gathering. Over 400,000 attendees gathered at the rural New York music event in 1969, far exceeding the 50,000 people who were supposed to attend. This massive crowd created logistical challenges, but also demonstrated the power of music to bring people together for peace and love. The Woodstock crowd represented the peak of 1960s counterculture and the generation that opposed war and promoted social change. Beatles' final group photograph. The last picture of all four Beatles members together was taken outside their recording studio in 1969. This historic photograph captured John, Paul, George, and Ringo before the band broke up and ended the most successful musical partnership in popular music history. The final photo represented the end of an era in music and popular culture that had influenced an entire generation. Stockholm Telephone Infrastructure Tower. A massive structure supported 5,500 telephone lines in Stockholm in 1890 before underground cables were implemented throughout the city. This impressive tower showed how early telephone systems required enormous physical infrastructure to connect customers before modern technology made communication easier. The telephone tower represented the industrial age solutions to communication challenges that seem primitive by today's standards. Robert Wadlow Teenage Giant Height. Robert Wadlow stood next to his father when he was 13 years old and already 8 feet 11 inches tall in 1931, making him the tallest person ever recorded. This gentle giant continued growing throughout his short life due to a medical condition that made him a celebrity and medical curiosity. The teenage giant represented how physical differences could make someone famous while also creating serious health challenges. Oldsmobile Inca's futuristic car concept. The Oldsmobile Inca's concept interior featured a futuristic design with digital dashboard and aircraft-inspired yoke steering wheel in 1986. This experimental vehicle showed how car designers imagined future automobiles would look and operate with advanced computer technology. The concept car represented automotive innovation and the dreams of how transportation might evolve with new technology. Egyptian Pyramid Tourist Climbing Adventure. Tourists and guides ascended pyramid stones during the popular foreign travel activity of pyramid climbing in the late 1800s. These adventurous visitors could actually climb to the top of ancient Egyptian pyramids before modern conservation rules protected the monuments from damage. The pyramid